Okay, now the United States title. We have Dolph Ziggler, of course, versus, and here's the confusing part, John Morrison. Two parts confusing the hell out of me right now. Number one, Morrison has been spoken of as leaving WWE for quite a while now, ever since Melina's left. And now suddenly he's getting a push, and I don't get it. I mean, I'm all for it. I want Morrison to stay. I'd like to see Morrison as United States champion. I'm a big fan of both him and Ziggler and Ryder, but I don't know. Something is up about this. Does does Dolph Ziggler have a match with John Morrison just because they want Ziggler to beat somebody on the pay per view, or does is this actually some kind of a goodwill that they're giving to Morrison to get him to sign? Maybe he's the one who is wants to leave and they're trying to keep him. I don't know. I mean, something's up with this.
I'd say
I
goodwill.
Yeah, I think they're trying to also throw fans off because everybody reads into the internet so much.
You think it's a blind side that they're just gonna give him a push and then release him right afterward as soon as they can? And
I'm hoping they go with the whole what we had talked about offline. The petition keeps getting brought up within WWE exclusives, online, writers show. I'm hoping because there's a report he was in Stanford recording something for WWE Classics on demand that they play off of that and say, look, I went to corporate and the board says I get my match, and then he pins whoever wins that match, which I would assume be Ziggler.
that's the other thing that's confusing me about this. They have Zack Ryder, who is, I mean, he has skyrocketed in terms of popularity. And they're cheering for him in the middle of a Miz and Truth and Cena match over everybody else. I mean, it's crazy, but they have him in New York and they don't give him a match. It makes no sense to me
It
at
makes
all.
perfect sense because at the end of the day, if you look at it, the way they're doing this, it's so similar to the way they handled Punk. Because Vince doesn't want Morrison to leave, so what's he going to do? He's going to appease him. He can't give him a world title match, so he's going to give him the next best thing.
But what
He'll
about
give him a
Zack?
US championship. He might win it. If he wins it, re-sign on a dotted line. Because apparently he couldn't come to terms with an appearance he had on an independent date. So it looks like all signs are pointing to him signing back with the WWE.
It'd be foolish for him to leave. I mean, he's got a lot of potential, and I think eventually he will pop in the WWE. But another interesting note with Ryder is Morrison recently challenged him on a show for the internet title.
Oh
So
yes, that's right.
Ryder comes out, gets this petition to fly, pins Ziggler, gets the U.S. title, and then or they Morrison and oh God, Ryder feud for a while, whether Morrison's the champ or Ryder's the champ. Ziggler can tag team with Swagger, give them meaning to go after the tag team champs when Evan Bourne gets back.
That is a really good idea. You know what? I am full steam ahead with that. That especially if that means a John Morrison heel turn, because I think Morrison, even though he is good as a face, I think it's a hindrance on his promos, and that's the one factor that keeps holding him back, other than the Melina backstage issues. If they were to have Zack Ryder get his U.S. title shot, but it's only against Morrison, and Ziggler and Swagger, I think, work really well together. They even had a pretty decent double team move on this last SmackDown last night, and I could definitely see them being transitioned over to being the tag champs with Morrison feuding with Zack Ryder. That definitely could work.
Mm-hmm.
I see Ziggler going over to SmackDown if he loses the US Championship. Because
To
there's
fill
no
one of the
way that he
spots.
won't go to the main event because they've got lack of credible main eventers on SmackDown as it is. Why not put the guy who's just been doing awesome over on Raw over to SmackDown?
Well, because who's he going to face? Is he going to face the main event of Mark Henry? He can't really necessarily do that unless he's a babyface. But I think Ziggler's doing too well to turn. If
Yeah.
anybody turns, it should be Swagger than Ziggler.
Well, either way, they could have had it where, say, Big Show wins the championship. You'd have Ziggles feud with Big Show.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think Ziggler's somebody who could carry Bryan. in a WrestleMania match because just listening to him with Sin Cara can't speak English. He was yelling and screaming tonight on SmackDown, and he was entertaining.
Well, I actually put that as my match of the year back last year, the Daniel Bryan versus Dolph Ziggler match at Bragging Rights. I thought that was better than the Undertaker Shawn Michaels match, which is saying a lot since they're my two favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then again, I'm not expecting Daniel Bryan to be that popular, so I
Either way, Ziggler has potential to be a main eventer.
oh yeah,
Why waste him in a tag team title feud where they could just give it to a number of candidates? Honico Stable, for instance, could get the tag titles. They could put it on Miz and Truth, who basically should have those tag titles around their waist. They could put it on anybody. They don't need the best thing would to elevate Ziggler onto the main event and then have Swagger hold a mid card title so that they've got these two, different champions on the Vicky Guerrero stable.
well, you know what? I can see Ziggler and Swagger going into WrestleMania as the tag team champions, just as a way to get both of them on the card, as well as have Vicky involved in something. Maybe even have not a triple threat, a 6-man tag. Dolph with Jack and Vicky against two babyface men and one babyface girl, something like that. Uh, and then they could, of course, they would have to by default do this Ryder against Morrison feud unless Morrison is leaving, and then they just do something else completely different. I don't know, but I I don't know. To me, there's one other option, and I don't think that they're going to do this, but it is an option that they could have Dolph Ziggler wrestle in the elimination match, and then he pulls double duty and he just barely beats Morrison, and then the whole petition thing comes up, and Ryder says, "I do have a title match, and it's right now." Ryder beats Ziggler for the title, and then they can do some kind of a feud, like a little mini feud, one single match at TLC or something like that, and then Ziggler moves on. That
Mm-hmm.
that more so is the option I'm thinking that could be a possibility if they don't want if they don't have Morrison re-signing, because then it would just be Ziggler has to wrestle somebody else. So who does he wrestle? Well, we can have him beat Morrison, and we'll just give him one win to justify him getting a title match.
Yeah. And I think the pop for Ryder winning the U.S. title in New York would be so friggin' loud.
Yeah.
It would compare with The Rock's return, if not surpass it.
Well, we've also got option C or D as well, which is right. They're making it a freeway between Ryder, Ziggler, and Morrison, which will probably be like 20 times more interesting than the Mark Henry World Title match. Um, or Morrison gets attacked in the back. That's a way to get him off of TV. Ryder comes in as his replacement.
True.
True.
So this is one of those ones where even though we got to pick who is going to win, to me, I do not feel confident at all in saying either one of them is going to win. But if I had to, I'm going to have to go with falling back on the champion as just when in doubt, pick C. Dolph Ziggler is going to retain the title against John Morrison. Who do you think, Dace?
I'm going to have to go with Ziggler retaining, but Ryder walking out with the title by the end of the night.
What do you think, Mike?
I'm gonna go anti, ethics here and say Ryder leaves with the title, and it's gonna be either a freeway or Morrison gets injured.
Nonetheless, we will see. And I know nobody's really looking forward to this, but our very last part is Beth Phoenix versus Eve Torres.